Welcome to the Thornton Review.
The show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Ashlee Hofberger was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida. She majored in marketing from the University of West Florida. Ashlee holds the Certified Professional Designation and the Talent Acquisition Specialty Credential from the Society for Human Resource Management at Emergenetics, which is an organization that provides expert team building and talent management training. In 2010, she became a business owner and co-founded Complete DKI Building Restoration Services. Ashlee is driven to uplift the community and create a positive impact in District 4. She's active with local community groups and initiatives, including PACE Center for Girls, Echo Life Church, and the Crew of Warriors. Ashlee was appointed by Governor DeSantis in October 2024 to the Escambia County Commission to represent District 4. She was elected by the citizens of District 4 in November 2024, where she currently serves as vice chair. She has deep ties to her community and a strong commitment to its growth and success, with a focus on local economic development. Hi, I'm Pueschel Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. On today's show, we have Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission, District 4. So Ashlee, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you. We've had a fun time in the studio so far. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Ashlee Hofberger, County Commissioner for District 4. If you're not familiar with District 4, I refer to it as the east side of Escambia County. So we have the Ferry Pass area, Cordova Park, East Hill, a sliver of downtown, which I refer to as Krispy Kreme South, and then the beautiful Pensacola Beach area.
Love that district.
Yes.
Thank you for the introduction. So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission, District 4. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Thank you for tuning in to the Thornton Review. We're having a discussion with Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission, District 4. So Ashlee, I have a battery of questions for you. We're going to start with public safety. So you ran your campaign on public safety, which in my opinion is the most important aspect of any governmental position. So can you tell us what steps have been made to improve public safety in your district or in Escambia County?
Absolutely. So, and I agree with you. Any government's job should be to keep us safe and to provide our infrastructure, because those are things that we really can't do just as ordinary citizens. So we do rely on the government to do that. I wanted to go in and really just change the way that we're currently looking at public safety and make sure that it was a priority. And we have made strides in that department. We have ordered 22 new ambulances for Escambia County. We have started to allow the hospitals to do their own inter-facilities transfers. And at one point the question came up and said, well, aren't we going to lose money on that? Well, yes, we're not going to get paid for transporting the patients, but they're going to get a higher level of service. And I feel like we worked out a great partnership with the local hospitals. It's really the best of both worlds. We get the first right of refusal. So if we have an ambulance available, we'll go, we'll take that client, we'll bill insurance, we'll collect just as we had before. If we don't have an ambulance available, the hospital is able to do that transport. So it is much better patient outcomes. It is a much better experience for the patients, and it's also reduced our response time. Back in August, we hired Chief Watts, and he is now over all of EMS, and he has made huge changes to that department that I've been able to support, which has been great. When I ran, they had lost 100 people out of a 127-person department in 2 years, which is astronomical turnover. It's something...
It just kind of tells you that maybe something's not going right within the office itself, like there's some internal issues going on. So I'm curious. So I always thought that ambulances came from each individual hospital, like they were the hospital. So EMS is its own thing, independent of the hospital?
Correct.
I never knew that.
So every county is different, and every municipality is different. In Escambia County, which also encompasses the city of Pensacola, we run the ambulance service, and those are county employees. Yes. And then we now do allow the hospitals to do, like I said, their own transports, which is a really big deal because we're getting more of the standalone emergency clinics. So if you have someone maybe that checks into the ER clinic for West Florida over on the west side of town, that's a 2-hour round trip for the ambulance to go get them, take them to West Florida Hospital, and then get back to their post on the west side of town. So now if we don't have that ambulance available, HCA is able to transport those patients.
That's amazing. That's good. And so, well, how does it work? So do they go to is there a central EMS office location that they go and clock into every day?
So we do have the emergency management headquarters over off of W Street. And for the most part, that is where everybody comes. They clock in, they get their ambulance for the day. We do have different ambulances for day shift and night shift, and that's just because they have to be restocked, and we need to make sure that everything is consistent.
And so when people call for an ambulance, they're at home, they're having an emergency, they call an ambulance. Does it come from that central ambulance location?
No, they're spread out throughout the community, which was also a priority of mine. Prior to me being in office, we didn't have an ambulance on the beach. So if you're spending Saturday afternoon and your grandmother goes into cardiac arrest on the beach, not only is traffic backed up getting out there, but that ambulance was having to come all the way from the mainland to respond to your grandmother in need and then get her to the hospital in Gulf Breeze.
That's when you would need life flight maybe, but so they're on the beach now.
Correct.
But how... They still have to fight traffic.
They do. And we're working on different traffic patterns and to evaluate that situation. We have also hired a significant amount more of EMTs and paramedics, so we're able to have them dispersed throughout the county, a lot more coverage than we had prior.
So on the beach, I think I know where the ambulance is stationed on the beach. It's right there at the Casino Beach parking lot.
They do rotate from Casino Beach parking lot to the fire station. So they kind of move post to post there and making sure that they're available if, tourists or day visitors are in Casino Beach parking lot and they're having an emergency. And then, of course, any of the residents in the area as well.
So are there any other great changes that have come about since you were appointed or elected?
So
under your watch,
the changing of leadership was a huge deal because the company culture, the team culture, whatever you want to call it, inside of EMS was awful. The turnover was terrible. They were not getting off shifts on time and running over by hours, which when you have kids to pick up or parents to care for, that's a big deal. So they've made great strides there. We have started investing in their education. So finding EMTs is a lot easier than finding paramedics. So if we can find the EMTs and start investing in their careers and growing them to the paramedic level and helping them take those classes and really educating them on what we need in Escambia County, we're able to retain them longer, and then they create a place that they love to work. And we're really working on that right now.
Have you noticed retention now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's amazing what management can do. Good management always has good backup, and good management can retain employees a lot better. So
yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's see. Tourism tax dollars.
Yes.
So what are the guidelines? I'm sure there are established guidelines and rules on where the money can be spent and why. So can you explain to us where tax tourist tax dollars can be spent?
So
And
there,
what it's been spent on?
yes.
Also,
So tourism tax dollars or head and bed tax, whatever you want to refer to it, is a 5-cent tax on hotel stays. And those 5 cents have to go to developing tourism in our area. Each one of the pennies you're able to spend a different way, and there's very strict rules. But for example, one of the pennies you can go to build parks and infrastructure and the Bay Center, things that will bring big groups of people. Other pennies you're able to use for advertising and to bring people to the area for certain events. And then other pennies you're able to use to actually supplement those events, or maybe there's a really awesome event that already has a lot of people in the Pensacola area that come, but maybe we could bring people from Mobile or Atlanta or Savannah or New Orleans over for that event. So we would take those pennies and market that event to people in that area. That way they drive into town, they stay with us for the weekend, and then they eat in our restaurants and they shop in our shops, and it generates more revenue for our community.
Did that pay for the Pensacola Beach sign?
It is paying for some of it, yes. Well, the gateway, the toll plaza sign, if that's the one you're referring to.
No, I was referring to the sailfish sign, the old vintage sign that points to Pensacola Beach.
So no, that came out of
That
general
says-
funds, just
okay.
as an update of, and to me it's very.
I thought that would come out of tourist funds. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought that would come out of tourist funds because it's the sign that shows tourists where to go to the beach.
It is a very iconic sign. That specific piece of the sign was changed to match the legislation that renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And for me, it's very important that we have accurate signage in our community. And out of everything that has happened since I've been in office, I will say I received more hate mail on that than anything else. And I even had someone say, well, why did you change the name? And I didn't
You
change
didn't
it. The
change
president
it.
changed it, and I
Right.
respect that position.
Absolutely.
So we're going to make sure that we have accurate signage in our community.
Well, good job. I'm glad you changed it.
Thank you.
Because you changed it to something that's accurate.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know about your appointment, your governmental appointment to the position. Was that a long process? I'm sure you had to fill out paperwork. I actually applied to be appointed by the government to ECUA, but
Okay.
I'm in a completely different district. So, but I know there's a process, and I know that. Can you explain the process?
Absolutely. So when the window opens up to go in and apply for a position, you go in, you fill out your paperwork, you upload a couple of documents, and then the governor picks his appointees for whatever position, whether it's school board or county commissioner, ECUA boards, Children's Trust Board. He also appoints the positions to that. So we've had people apply for it, and we're waiting on him to make those selections and those appointments. I applied. For those of you who don't know, I'm finishing out Robert Bender's last 2 years of his position because he went from being the District 4 County Commissioner to being our Supervisor of Elections. So he vacated that seat the last week of January, and so that became open for an appointment. So you had all these people submit their applications and why they think they would be able to serve the community in that position, and I submitted that week as well.
So it was like a 10-month process?
It was very interesting because I went on and submitted that week, and I know we had quite a few other people. And then I also applied to run for Robert Bender's position.
Right.
So the primary election was in August. I won
Okay.
the primary election, and then still didn't hear anything on the appointment. We're like, okay, well, maybe the governor's just going to let it ride.
Maybe you're really busy, though.
Maybe he's really good at, right. Well, and we had a quorum, and so it's not like decisions were not being made in the community. So I think that kind of went into it. So we get past the primary election. We are a month out from the general election. And at that point, I received the appointment from the governor. Complete surprise. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll bet you just felt like you're on the
you.
top of the world
It
because
was-
that is just a huge accomplishment.
It was very exciting, but then I still had the last month of the campaign to run as well.
Right.
So the benefit was I was able to get into the county offices and kind of learn things because we also had a new District 1 county commissioner coming in. And I think it would have been really hard on the county staff to teach us both everything at one time. So we kind of got to space that out, and I got their individual time with me. And then when he was voted in, he got that individual time as well.
Interesting. So much fun. So I'm sure there's a lot to learn because there's more going on in the county than EMT services.
Yeah, and we actually, in the same vein for public safety, just voted last month to move forward with investing over $34 million in fire departments as well.
Wow.
So we're going to build 2 brand new fire departments, and we're going to fully rehab, demo and demolish 2 fire departments, and then build living quarters onto another fire department.
Interesting. So we're going to take a commercial break.
Okay.
I want to ask you about some very specific things that I'm sure a lot of members of the community are very interested in knowing about. But the Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with a purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. You can watch the Thornton Review on our various outlets, our website, thethorntonreview.com. On Vimeo, please follow the Thornton Review. On YouTube, please subscribe to the Thornton Review at the Thornton Review 7810. Please like our Facebook page, the Thornton Review Show. On TV, WBQP, channels 12.1 and 12.8, and WBQP on Roku and Fire Stick. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission, District 4. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Thank you for tuning in to the Thornton Review. We are back with Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission at District 4. So Ashlee, I wanted to ask you about collaboration. So I know that as an elected official for the county, it's very important to be able to collaborate with city, ECUA, the school board, every other governmental entity and body in our county. You have to be able to collaborate with them and work with them on different issues. So what issues have you worked with them on, personally? What have you done?
Thank you so much for asking. The most pressing one, and probably the biggest hot topic right now, is the Bay Center. So coming up in July, we actually have a joint meeting between the Board of County Commissioners and City Council, and we're bringing everyone to the table. We are going to lay out a game plan of how to move forward with the Bay Center. It is what should be an iconic piece of property in our community, and I think most of us drive by and we're like, oh my gosh, that's the same Bay Center that, I saw Britney Spears in back in the day.
I was there I remember when they built it in the 80s, and I went to the very first concert there. It was Kiss.
Okay.
1987.
It probably looks close to the same. So we need some upgrades.
I went to quite a few concerts there back in the day when it was new. I haven't been there in a very long time, but I know that there's been talk about demolishing it and building something new, and also changing the exit that circles it,
right,
and doing away with that. So what are your thoughts on doing away with the exit?
There's a lot of options on the table. I think doing away with, I think that's Chase Street that wraps around the backside. Yeah. I think that is in all of the plans because it expands the parking lot. It opens up. Gregory. Okay, so it opens up the backside of the Bay Center, and it provides a lot more room for things just to spread out and for us to really rehab that whole area, which is what we want. We want a place that is used Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then after hours and on the weekends. So the question is, how do you energize pretty much a whole city block and make it usable all the time and not just for special events? And I used to think, well, let's just demolish it. Let's tear it down. And you look at what Mobile's doing, and it's costing them over $300 million.
Wow.
So we don't have that in the budget, but what we do have is between $70 and $100 million that we're going to really be able to rehab it.
Oh, I love it. So,
Yes.
so the talk is not for demolishing.
No.
Good. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So we'll be able to make something beautiful and iconic. I think right now, just the pie in the sky ideas, let's make it look good. Let's make it inviting. Let's upgrade the sound systems. Let's upgrade some of the features inside.
I think the sound systems were built improperly to begin with. It's echoey in there. The concerts were echoey, and somebody said that when they built it, they put the walls in backwards. I don't know if that was accurate,
that's
but
interesting.
that's what I heard, that they put the walls in backwards.
Right.
That it just echoes the
What if
sound.
you just think about how far technology has came?
Yeah.
You know, like you don't use the same computer or cell phone that you used, 5 years ago, much less using a building that is so antiquated. So definitely reinvesting in those, but then also how do we bring in either a convention space or like a small convention space, something, and I say small, but that we could host regional conferences. Obviously, we're not going to be a national destination for, huge trade shows, but there's Florida Association of fill in the blank. They have conferences sometimes biannually, and we can capture all of that. Those people come, they spend money, and with it being Pensacola Beach and then the downtown, you're really able to get the people who want to stay over for the long weekends and really enjoy everything that we have to offer. So I think whatever goes there, we're going to really focus on driving tourism, making sure it's beautiful, making sure that we're re-energizing that area. Because it really is, if you think about it, there's downtown, the Bay Center, Gulf Breeze, and then the beach. So if we can really make that whole corridor just beautiful and inviting, we'll get so much more bang for our buck when it comes to investing tourism dollars.
What about the technological park across the street from that? Is that county or is that city?
That is county owned. There are some restrictions on that I think they ran out last December. So it is a little bit more versatile than it was, say, 5-10 years ago. And we're working with Florida West on, what are they planning on putting there? What could we put there? How can we partner? And when I, talked to some of the board members and even the news director there, I said, doesn't it make sense to have a parking structure that whatever businesses go there can use Monday through Friday, and then come concert time or graduation weekends, we get to use that, and that can be parking for the Bay Center as well. So there's definitely room to work all of that in together. And if you think about places that you go for conferences, maybe we could do like shops and restaurants on the bottom and then parking on the inside. So you're not just staring at concrete cubby holes like you would, old school airport parking, but it's something nice, it's inviting, you feel safe, you feel comfortable walking around, and then the ground level would be energized with retail shops and restaurants.
Parking garages. Do we need them on the beach and near the Bay Center? Wouldn't it be?
I think we do. And if you look at Pensacola Beach, the number of cars, we do fine until we hit about 20,000 cars a day, and then everything just goes completely haywire. And somebody said it is literally like trying to stuff 20 pounds of potatoes in a 15-pound potato sack.
Right.
And that is what it is. So we can only do so much, but we can alleviate a lot of that. So right now we do have a solicitation out for how is the best way to make traffic flow. So bringing people on and off the beach
Y'all
efficiently.
just need another bridge, I think.
So that's about another $300 million price tag.
Right.
It is really expensive. And we do have 20 years left on the bridge that's out there. So we did some reinvesting in that after Hurricane Sally. It had some damage, and some of the structural things that we put into place, we've got another 20 years on that. So we do have time to plan. It is going to be a very big ticket item. So that is something that is definitely being thought of.
And it's a bridge that's not even that long. What is it, a mile across the bay?
Yeah.
Across the sound, I mean?
Right.
From Gulf Breeze to the beach? It's about
It is compared
Well,
to
no, it's not even a mile. It can't be.
I think it's just right under or right over, because I have friends that jog it.
Okay.
So it is, I think it's right at a mile. So I think a parking structure out there will help. Also smart parking options. So believe it or not, there is always parking available on the beach. It just might not be in the core area. So we're looking at ways right now that we can tell people, hey, Casino Beach parking lot is full, go to Park West, or go to this parking lot where there are lifeguards present. Because obviously we want people swimming where lifeguards are present, but we also want cars to find a place to park once they
Right.
get out there.
Well, there are several boardwalks going down the beach. If you go east down the beach, there's several boardwalks
Yes.
and smaller parking lots along that area. And if you go west towards Fort Pickens, I know that there's a parking lot at the end
Yes.
right before the.
And those all have lifeguards, which is great. So that's really what we want to make sure, that people are swimming where it's safe, and that it is also a safe way to get on and off the beach, because after you sit in traffic for a while and you've been
Right.
sun-soaked all day long, and
ready to relax on
you're
the
ready
beach
to
and have
relax.
fun.
Yes.
Because that's what you go to the beach for.
Exactly.
Not for hectic traffic.
Right. Right.
Roundabouts. Are you for them or against them?
I actually have no opinion. I majored in marketing and minored in management, and I have HR certification. So if you ask me about company culture or building a team, I'm your girl for that. I am really relying on the people who have degrees in this and who have experience with it. And I told somebody today, I said, I don't care if it is shaped like a lollipop. I just want it fixed. So tell me the most efficient way to get it done. I am very open-minded, but whatever we do, I want to make sure that we're planning for growth, because more people are coming to the beach. It's not just tourists. 90% of the people that come across the bridge on any given weekend are locals. You know, we're putting hundreds of people in town. Those people want a vacation on the beach. They want to spend their weekends, you know, with their toes in the sand. So we want to make sure that the beach remains accessible for them, which means they can get out there and get home in a timely manner.
And have you collaborated with ECUA on the beach?
They were doing
They have-
some construction
I know
out
they have
there.
some projects.
They are, and they're doing some upgrades, and we're actually using reclaimed water to water the medians, which is great. It's like recycled water. We are also working with ECUA to make sure that when we do projects, those project schedules are a lot more aligned. So instead of the county coming in and putting in a brand new sidewalk in your community, and then ECUA coming back and redoing whatever lines run underneath that sidewalk and having to pay to put the sidewalk back, we're really collaborating on the calendars to make sure that we're only doing that work once. So whoever's paying for it, it's only your tax dollars being spent one time.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So what about the Santa Rosa Island Authority? How is your position related to the Santa Rosa Island Authority?
You know, I love them all. They are great. The people who serve on there are very, very well educated, very well spoken. It is not a contentious group of people. They are very much invested in our community. But it is a very wonky setup if you think about it, because
I know.
Right. So I'm the,
Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
yeah, and it is hard, right?
How is the beach under District 4 County Commission, but then they have their own government entity that is kind of their own county commission on the beach?
So I'm going to throw another monkey wrench into that situation. The people who serve on the board for SRIA, there's only one elected official. The rest of them are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. So there is essentially a pod of people on Pensacola Beach who there is a whole government entity between me and them.
Right.
And that government entity is ran by people appointed by all the county commissioners. And I will say naively,
It's kind of like the Queen and Parliament.
it's bizarre because they were appointed by those county commissioners, so they obviously have views that are aligned with those county commissioners, and those county commissioners' priorities are then their priorities. So what happens to the priorities of the beach people?
Well, they can go to the meetings and give input, and of course
They can, but those people aren't elected for them, and they're making decisions over
Hello.
right. And that's been very apparent in the MSBU situation. So we have got to raise the MSBU, which is essentially your fire tax in the county, because prior to the contract that we just signed, our firefighters were making $13 an hour,
Oh, wow.
which is terrible.
Yeah.
So we all know that they need to make better, and so we're going to raise the MSBU. And the question is, well, how are you going to raise the MSBU? And the only proposal that was put across the table raised the MSBU on the beach disproportionately to the rest of the county, and it actually raised the fire tax for the commercial properties by over 1,100%. And it's enough that people would lose their businesses and lose their livelihoods, and places that you've seen out there like Papa's Pizza would be no more because they can't afford it.
Right.
So we've really got to focus on how we're going to be
Economic
equitable.
development is so important. The small businesses, the local business. I mean, that's what America is founded on, is the free enterprise system. That's why the Mayflower came over here, was to worship God and own a business.
American
That's
dream.
American. Yeah,
Yes.
that's American. own a business, work for the company you want to work for, and hopefully that company that you're working for is a thriving business,
Right.
owned by, maybe a local business owner, maybe a corporation. But we want the local economy to thrive,
Yes.
because that's really the only way that our citizens are going to thrive and have jobs.
Right. Well, and I come from small business ownership, and that was one of the reasons I ran. We were doing a rehab on one of the buildings that we own, and it took us 13 weeks to get a permit for an interior remodel. And it's just not a great system. And when we added it up, it was a significant amount of money it cost us in lost revenue. And you have people who want to put in cafes, or they want to put in restaurants, or they want to build family fun centers, or, whatever amenity that community needs. And the mentality of the county is not really, how do we get you there? It's not a very helpful mentality. So we're really working on changing that, and making sure that it's more of a public service. And how do we get to yes? How do we make this happen for the community? And I think you're beginning to see some of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, because it's very important for it to be easy to be a business owner.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very important. That's the only way that our community is going to thrive, is with business owners and employees who do what they're supposed to do.
Right. It takes a whole team. It really
Absolutely.
does.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about homelessness a little bit. So the city has the homeless reduction task force. I'm sure you're well aware of. Have you collaborated with them at all?
We do work with the city on, because homelessness knows no boundaries, right? So whether they're in the city or in the county, we need to do what we can to help those people. And I really approach it as what can we do to help the people who are homeless get back on their feet and become contributing members of society? And you have a couple different groups of people who find themselves homeless. Some people, it is just a terrible situation.
It's beyond their control.
It's beyond their control. They've lost their jobs. Their husband lost their jobs. They're living in the car. They're trying to get their kids to and from school. So how do we get those people in a shelter? How do we up their skills so that they can get another job and provide for their families? You have people,
and they're able-bodied, and they want to. It's just a
people need help.
Circumstance beyond their control, and they are going to pick up the pieces and move on. They just might need some help.
So the question is, so how do we come alongside them as a community and get them to their next step, which should always be our goal. You have a group of people who suffer from mental illness. We actually had a gentleman show up at our laundromat, and he had been kicked out of his group home, and his mom lived in South Florida, and he didn't know how to get home. And so I called a friend of mine.
Help get him home quick.
Well, and I have a friend that runs Fearless Community, and I called Melissa. I said, Melissa, I don't help. And so Melissa just showed up, and she actually flew him back home to get him with his family, so he had a support system. But prior to that, he was sleeping under the bridge and in the bushes. So you do have that demographic of people that just need help, and they don't know how to get it for themselves because they just don't have the mental capacity to get there. And then sadly, you have the people who are addicted to drugs, or they're addicted to alcohol, and those are the ones you see, right? So if you think about the people that are out in the middle of the medians and they're talking to themselves, it's a drug and it's an alcohol problem. So as a community, how do we give them the resources to say, you can't stay homeless here, but we can help you get to the next step. And this is what that looks like. And I think
and you have some that want the help and that accept the help. You have others that will not conform to rules.
And that's fine, but this isn't the place for them, if that's the case.
Exactly. So what do we do?
Right.
Because they're still walking around. I see them all the time. And it's in my opinion, it's public intoxication.
Yeah. The city did a really good job. Their ordinance is a lot beefier than the county's. So I think the county could learn a little bit from the city and how they wrote that in there. For example, the city, there's no camping on city property at all. Well, the county, there's no overnight camping. So you have... off of Herman Avenue, right off of Pace Boulevard, you have groups of people that... Right. And Waterfront does great things, and the people who are living there, like I said, I own the laundromat on the corner. We have people who stay at Waterfront who line up on Saturday mornings to do their laundry first thing so they can go back to work Saturday afternoon. So those are that first group of people we were talking about that are really trying to get their life back on track. But then you have the people who hang out in front of Waterfront, who are just literally waiting for people to drive by because they know it's a shelter and just hand them something. And that's really what we need to stop. We need need to come alongside people and get them to their next step
Right.
and stop this perpetual idea of there's no other option, because there are beds available in our community.
Yeah, because a lot of them are able-bodied. I've spoken with them. My husband has spoken with them. When the homeless camp was under the bridge, he went over there several times and actually met some people, because we were curious
Right.
as to what's going on in our city. Why do we have this dump of people under the interstate? It was ridiculous. So we met a few, and they like being homeless. Like they don't want responsibility. They refuse to abide by any rules, and they don't want to be told what to do. One man's quote was, when the boss tells me what to do, it's not my job anymore. So that's him telling you that he just refuses to work for anybody. So, you know, it just feels hopeless to me. Like, some people are just, there's no helping them.
Yeah. Well, and statewide, our homeless population since 2022 is up 42%.
It's up.
It's up
Wow.
a significant amount.
Yeah.
And that's statewide.
Because of drugs.
It is, and I think fortunately we have an amazing sheriff, and so he's done a lot to cut down on the fentanyl, and they are taking it serious. And I remember I met with him when I was running. I was like, obviously it's a problem. What are you doing? He goes, oh, we're going to start wrecking cars. I was like, I don't get it. He said, we are going after these people hard, and we will not stop.
Yeah.
So we have a sheriff.
I've seen it.
Yeah, he's great. But you have other communities who are not as fortunate, and you know, the sheriff, again, on a limited budget, and I've had people say, oh, well, we need more officers out at the beach, and we need officers, and we do. We need more officers, and as a county, we need to make public safety a priority. We actually put less money percentage-wise, so if you look at our total budget and then what we spend on public safety, we're one of the lowest in the state of Florida, which is disgusting. So if public safety is a priority, we need to restructure the way we budget things, and we need to make sure that our sheriff's officers, our firefighters, our EMTs, paramedics, they're making a good livable wage. And I think we've made progress, but I don't think we're there yet.
You also need the right people. You have
Need
to
the
have
right
the right
people.
people applying for the job, the trainable people.
Yes.
The people whose hearts are in it. They want this as their career, and they're going to stay, because longevity is important.
It is, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize you pay for turnover, you pay for recruiting costs.
Right.
That's a big deal.
is.
It's about 30% of their annual salary.
Wow.
Every
That's
time you
a
lose
lot.
somebody. Yep.
So, just as a side note, it's called the Homeless Reduction Task Force, but in reality, it's the Homeless Perpetuity Task Force, because it's never going to end.
Well, I think you have people whose heart is in the right spot, and they're trying to do the right thing.
I believe they're trying. And I truly believe
And a lot
Melissa
of it's like
is trying.
what
She's
works and what
awesome.
doesn't work, you know, and like it's okay, well, this obviously didn't work, so let's pivot and do something else. And I know the county is working on a grant program that we had. It was about $1 million, and it's going to AMR, and AMR is going to rehab one of the schools, and they're going to turn it into come as you are, like, and we'll get you to the next step, but you have to be clean. You can't have the drugs in your system. They're going to create affordable housing. They're going to have someone on site offering services. So maybe
Can you disclose which school?
I could have McMillan,
Okay.
the McMillan School.
Okay.
Yep.
I know where that is.
Yep. Yep. Not far from here. And if you look at the renderings and the pictures, it's going to be a beautiful place for people to come and get a new start. And that's really what people need. And like I said,
So it's going to be staffed like with people who know about mental.
correct. Yep. Staffed and security.
Yeah. Good. Will it bring people in from other states, or is it for locals?
As far as the homeless people or the resources?
The homeless people.
No, it'll just strictly be for local. Yeah.
Because it won't be advertised like in Mississippi or
no,
Louisiana. Y'all come to Florida because they got some help for you.
No, and it is interesting you say that, because if you look at Escambia County compared to Santa Rosa County, we do have a lot more resources here, and we have a lot more homeless people.
I know we have a lot more homeless people, and I'm wondering if it's because we have the resources.
Some of
that
it is.
People catch when, I can get free food over there.
Some of it is.
Still do my drugs on the street.
Right. And that's really the
don't want
question,
that.
right? Like, how do we stop this? How long do we allow? And when we shut down Beggs
Maybe
Lane,
stop the resources.
right? Well, and when we shut down Beggs Lane, like you had people in an uproar, and I'm like,
Yeah.
have you been back there?
Mhm.
Anybody who walks through Beggs Lane and thinks it's okay to let people live like that,
Right.
they've never been back there because they don't know.
I was never back there. I didn't even know it was there
Yeah.
until I saw. I happened to be coming from Step One Automotive to my house and down Palafox Street, and I saw all these people. You
Yeah.
know, some of them had they had all their stuff,
Everything
their
they own.
belongings that looked like not nothing that anybody'd really ever want, and some of them had dogs, but they just looked pitifully homeless,
Yeah.
and there were like hundreds of them lying on the street. And so where did they go?
A lot of
they
them
just
went to
dispersed.
shelters. So we did put quite a few in shelters. A lot of them went back home. Escambia County actually rolled out a project middle of the summer last year called Real Change. And so they we partnered with Village Ministries, I think, over at Olive. They bring people in, they sit them down, and they say, how did you get here? And then they say, can you go back home?
Right.
How do we get you back home? And so they're not just shipping them out to some other county.
Right.
They're sending them back home where they have a support system, which is so
Hopefully
important.
they have the support system, because I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of them are just broken families, and that's the reason why they are the way they are. Like maybe they don't have a support system, or maybe their support system is so fed up with their behavior and their activities that they're like, no, can't do that anymore.
Yeah, and you do have some of that. And then we have endless places that people can go and get the help and get the counseling. And really, as long as they want it, we have the resources to make it happen.
Good. So about collaboration, I love the way that your mindset is on collaborating with other government entities in the county to get things done that are very important. What is your overall goal or theme that you are striving for during your term as county commission?
So it's
You have-
really
you have
odd.
2 years left?
I do.
Or
Well,
3 years?
no. So I have to run
One
again
year.
in 2026.
Okay, so you've got 1 year left,
1
because
year
you're
left.
finishing Commissioner Bender, who is now supervisor
Correct.
of elections, Bender's office. So you're going to be campaigning again.
Yes.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick. So we knocked on a lot of doors last time, and we made a lot of phone calls. So we'll be obviously starting all that back up. But public safety is so important. And I knew from the outside looking in where we were lacking, and now that I've been in it and I see it every day, and you get to see behind the curtain, as people say, we have a lot to do in public safety. We have an amazing group of men and women. We have some great leadership in those positions, but they do need more resources. And it needs to be the priority of the Board of County Commissioners to give them those resources and keep our community safe. If you look at any thriving community, safety is first, because you can't have anything else if it's not safe.
Absolutely. What about the Baptist Hospital building? Is there a master plan for that yet? Like that is going to happen, that everybody's agreed on?
So that building, that area is a little odd, and some of it's in the city and some of it's in the county.
Really?
That's
Okay.
yes. But Baptist has gifted that to the city. So the city has taken possession of that. The city has been raising funds to do the demo of the building. And then they do have, I have not seen it, but I've been told that there is and it's been described, it's beautiful, a master plan for that area. It's going to have different levels of income housing. So what you don't want is
Like apartment type buildings or individual houses? Do you
so
know?
it will be apartment type buildings, and it'll be different varieties, because what you don't want is you don't want to build the projects, right?
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Yes.
So
Please
studies,
don't build the
please don't
projects.
build the projects.
Don't invite
Right.
in, what
But
you don't
studies
want.
show if you put low income housing and it's mixed use, so you have your low income and your high income, it is generally a much safer area. You get some of the tax breaks, so you can build nicer amenities that people in lower income areas wouldn't necessarily have, which is great. I know that Baptist Healthcare is working on a healthcare component for that area as well, and they're going to partner with the city to make sure that goes in. It has been a priority to put some sort of, because it's been called a food desert, a lot of those people just walk from place to place in that neighborhood,
Right.
so
And
they
they
need
just look
somewhere
for
they
food,
can
yeah.
walk and grab food that's not a convenience store. So how do we provide that? So there is a master plan. and I know that.
You mean like grocery store type thing? Like people who live there walking to the store?
So for example, a lot of people that lived near the hospital used the cafeteria for the hospital
Oh, really?
as their regular dining
Okay.
place, right? And now that I own a restaurant, I get it because that makes sense. You know, you just go in,
Right.
especially if it's relatively healthy food, and hospital food's decently priced. So,
Yeah.
like, why not? So that has been something that community has been missing. So making sure that those gaps are being plugged is a priority. And I think the mayor's done a really good job of studying what has worked well in other areas. When I sat down and talked with him, he talked about a development over in Louisiana, and the life expectancy, I think, of that area was like 62 years old. And once they went in and they master planned everything, they plugged some of the holes that we were talking about, is now like 83. So you just have people who are living longer, they're living healthier lives, they're interacting with more people, so they're not just shut in their house. And that's really important, and I think people undervalue that.
Did they find out what the age discrepancy was? I mean, why people were...
It was their health, their lifestyles, and their health care.
Okay. Like water, diet,
Water, diet,
mental, like
all the above.
depression.
All of it, because when you live closer like that,
Smoking
you're more
cigarettes, maybe? I don't know.
maybe let's stop
Drinking
doing
a
that
lot, I
and
don't
stop
know.
vaping. Obviously, building a healthier lifestyle, but a lot of it's just around the community. And if you think about like our grandparents, if you look at our grandparents who are more engaged and they're involved in their church groups, and they go and they play bingo with their friends, and they have their little afternoon outings.
They have their 3 meals a day.
They have
and
their 3 meals
naps
a
in
day.
between.
Yes, but they're much healthier than our grandparents who sit at home alone and don't get out and don't do anything. So it's that community engagement and building that community around each other.
Yeah. Family is important.
Yes.
Family is the first governmental authority, the family structure. And once the family structure breaks down, then the whole society breaks down.
Right. Well, and I know that childcare is extremely important, and it's hard to find childcare. So
Yes.
how do you find childcare? And
People don't want to leave their kid with just anybody
Right.
or at just any place,
Rightfully
because
so.
things can happen, you know, with older kids or, you know, the wrong employee.
Yeah, and one of the
If you
things
don't
that that I think that you're beginning to see, and I would love to see some of it develop in Escambia County, is generational housing. So you have houses that are built for grandma and grandpa to live, right? Not in the same house, because we all need our space, right? But more like duplex style. That way they can watch the kids, and grandma and grandpa get to live a happier, healthy, more connected lifestyle, and you know who your kids are with,
Yeah.
right? So you do
love
see other
I love
countries do it.
incentivizing families.
Yes.
Incentivizing families where at least the dad is working.
Yeah.
And doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully going to church, hopefully going to the right church that actually worships the one true God, and doing what they're supposed to do in society. You know, not breaking the law.
So fun fact, Escambia County is the city of Pensacola is the 40th largest unchurched city in the United States.
What? Unchurched.
Unchurched.
Oh, because people don't. There's
don't
a church
go.
on every street
We have
corner,
amazing churches. I go to
Yeah.
Echo Life. It's great. Our daughter goes to, a Christian school. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But you have so many people who are just looking for a place to get plugged in and looking for something more than what's on YouTube and what's on TikTok. And
Oh gosh, yeah.
right. So and the church can meet that. People just have to
Right.
walk in the doors. So
Yeah.
for
You
as
do
many
not
churches
want to
we
get your
have,
church online or on TV.
yeah, you need to be connected.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for because we live stream church. Echo Life does.
Yeah.
And my daughter went through this phase when
Oh,
she was little, and I was like, oh my, like she is not sitting through kid care. So there was a few months that I was so thankful we got to sit there and watch
Sure.
church. But just being connected makes a difference.
Yeah. I'm not talking about don't get your church online unless you're already involved with
Right.
that church and you know what that church is.
Yes.
But like the History Channel, you probably don't want to get your church from it because
No.
that is not true. That is not from the Bible. They put so much junk in there and they twist it and turn it in ways that just are not true.
Right.
And I've known some people who just watch the History Channel and they think that they're getting their church from the
That
History
is not the
Channel.
same.
I know.
That
yeah.
is not the same.
It's not. It's really sad.
Yes.
So I'm enjoying talking to you and getting to know you. I want to have you back on the show. But so we know what your goals are. What's your most famous or what's your most favorite accomplishment so far as county commissioner? Probably just getting elected, probably getting
Getting
appointed by
elected,
that-
it's really cool because you get like you have people, and it's when I knocked on doors, I said I'm here to ask for your vote, and that is something that is so important, because you only get
You have
to
to
vote
really
for one.
connect with people.
You do, but it was an honor to get elected, and to know that many
Absolutely.
people went and checked the ballot and filled
Yeah.
in the bubble beside my name was a huge honor, and just making sure that what I promised them standing on their doorsteps, I'm actually making happen. And
Right.
I had somebody, well, you're not doing anything
You
about
are.
this. I
You
said, I
have-
didn't tell you I
you-
was going to fix that.
You have fulfilled
know?
your promise,
Right.
and you're striving for it.
Yes.
That's what your goal is.
Well, and I think just being transparent, because we're only given so much information, right? And I feel like everyone on the board makes the best decision that they can with the information that's provided.
Sure.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
that information changes, and I just think it's so important to be transparent about why I'm voting a certain way.
So I know there's a lot to know. There's a lot to learn. So I was on the Citizens Advisory Committee at UCUA, and I went to every single ECUA meeting and CAC meeting for an entire year before I was appointed to the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I went on all the tours of the Central Water Reclamation Facility, the MRF, the recycling facility, the compost operations, the testing lab. They have so many departments. And I went on tours of probably almost all of them. I even
great.
climbed to the top of the emergency tank on Palafox Street. So that was quite enough.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was unexpected. I knew I was going on a tour of the lift station, and I jokingly said, "So when are we going to go up there?" And he didn't really answer me, but he said, "Well, follow me," in a conversational way. And so I followed him and found myself following him up the ladder, up the stairs
Oh,
to
wow.
the top of it, and it was pretty neat.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we got some pictures up there.
Very awesome.
But what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot to learn. ECUA isn't just water and garbage.
Right.
Each department has, department heads. They have engineers. They have very educated people there. It's a huge operation. And I know, so I haven't studied the county. I know there's a lot of issues going on in the county, but I haven't studied exactly, all the departments and all of the things that the county has. But it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot to learn.
It is.
And I'm sure you being there for the 2 years is it 2 years now? It's one year that you've been elected.
Correct.
Right.
Close to a year.
Almost. Yeah. So you've just kind of scratched the tip of the iceberg, really.
Right. Yeah, it is
So-
interesting, and I look at it coming from the business world. I look at it as a business. It needs to be efficient, and we need to be good stewards of the money that we take, right?
Right.
Because we do. We collect taxes. That was your money. You paid it to the county. You expect us to spend it wisely. So I want to make sure no matter what department we're working in, we are spending that money as wisely and as responsible as we possibly can. And there are across the board efficiencies to be gained. And one of the things that I've really been encouraging our county administrator to explore is how can we integrate technology into what we're doing. And we need to pay compression's a huge deal. And so how can we integrate technology so we have fewer employees, but the employees that we do have are paid better and we can be competitive? Because right now we have department heads who are looking at retiring. We have no way to backfill those positions because we can't offer the pay range that we need to, because then that starting pay would be more than someone who's been in the department for 10 years makes.
Wow.
We've always done it this way, and this is just the way it's always worked. We're getting to the point where we're going to have to change some of that.
So I just think it's important. Are there term limits yet on this
There's
county
not.
commission? Okay,
No, ma'am.
so I think it's important that once you get a good person in the position whose heart is in it, who is treating it as a full-time job and part of their life, because they are so committed to the community and they're honest, they're not doing it just to line their pockets.
Right.
I think it's just ideal and perfect to keep that person in. They know what they're doing. They're running it like a business. They're running it like it should be. They're transparent. They're doing
Right.
a great job. I love keeping that person in. So congratulations on your
Thank you.
election, and I wish you the best on the next campaign. And I
Thank
have
you.
every no doubt in my mind that you're going to be elected again.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It was a great day, and I feel like we had really good conversation, and I just really appreciate your time.
I learned a lot, and I really appreciate it, and I'd love
you.
to have you back on.
Thank you.
sometime. So the Thornton Review is on the air to provide public it's a public service awareness and intellectual infrastructure program for our community. This show was made possible by Ida Gates, Godly Teas LLC, Alpha Fence Company, and our guest, Ashlee Hofberger, County Commission District 4. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Thornton Review. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Durr.